Yeah, I think Newcastle will be busy to try and make some signings, as we've spoke previously before. The whole issue around Newcastle is the PSR FFP conundrum, that they sometimes have to cut their cloth despite being able to afford to spend more money in the transfer market due to the finance of the owners. Right now, the options in the squad haven't really changed what Eddie Howe wants to do. Ideally, he wants to bring in a new centre back, which he has been since last summer when they tried to sign Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. That interest is still there. They want to bring in a wide forward on the right, inverted winger, somebody who can score goals and create goals. Despite the great form of Jacob Murphy for Newcastle, it's still an area of the team that they would like to strengthen. A lot of talk around potentially bringing in another goalkeeper as well, even though for me, I think when Nick Pope is fit, he is the number one for Newcastle, and he's always done a good job for them. There's been a lot of suggestions that James Trafford is a potential transfer target for Newcastle as well, but now with Burnley winning promotion to the Premier League, it makes it really hard for Newcastle maybe to sign the England under 21 goalkeeper as well, so maybe they might have to look elsewhere if they are to bring in another goalkeeper. But look, Newcastle, I think obviously have made great strides this season. They've won the Carabao Cup. They're hoping to qualify for the Champions League. That will obviously boost their transfer kitty, so I would expect the club to make funds available as long as they stay within FFP to strengthen Eddie Howe's squad in summer. And he knows if they are in the Champions League next season, he's definitely going to have to add some options to that squad, because they won't be able to cope if they want to challenge on all fronts with the current squad they've got.
Well, he picks the same team regularly, doesn't he? I mean, before the Ipswich game that I did, was it last week before last? Beat Ipswich at home 3-0. In the previous 7 games, he picked the same side, and he made one change in the Ipswich game. It was enforced because of the injury to Joe Linton. He relies on 12, 13 players heavily. They've got a lot of minutes in the legs. Newcastle are one of a few teams that have scored more than 60 Premier League goals. They've only had 9 scorers of the goals, which is a very few. Last season, they scored a similar amount of goals, but they had over 20 goal scorers. But that just shows you how much he relies on the same nucleus of players. Squad depth is a thing for Newcastle, but obviously been very careful. The richest club in the world, they've still got to play by the rules, which is as frustrating as anything.
One of the players that has been linked, you talked about earlier, that they're looking at defensive options there. Jonathan Tah is one of the names that seems to come into the mix. I believe he's out of contract this summer at Leverkusen. Quite a lot of clubs have been linked with him. Could he be one that we see come through the door at St James's Park?
Well, I'm surprised that Leverkusen didn't look to extend his contract. I mean, you look at these, played over 500 Bundesliga games. He's only 29 as well. I think he's a top player. Looked at his record this season. He's played 47 games this year, so he's not a player that was out of favour. And maybe it's just time for, maybe he's looking at pastures new. If Newcastle could get there ahead of others, I think it'd be a good signing for him. I don't know what you think, Pete. Is there anyone else in for him?
Yeah, he'd be a brilliant signing for Newcastle if they could get him. I think the problem that Newcastle will find is the competition for his services is going to be really intense. Probably one of the most sought after free agents in Europe in this upcoming summer transfer window. Barcelona thought they had a deal done for Jonathan Tah, but due to their ongoing financial constraints, it has left the door open for other clubs to maybe come in. Real Madrid could be one who could maybe make a move for him, especially if Xabi Alonso does end up at the Bernabeu when he leaves Leverkusen. Obviously, he knows all about Jonathan Tah, and we spoke earlier in the show about Real Madrid's defensive issues. Manchester United have also been credited with an interest in Jonathan Tah as well. So yeah, look, I think just because of the competition for his services, I think with the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona all being interested in Jonathan Tah, I just think that will mean Newcastle probably will miss out on him. But I think he will be a top signing. I would love to see him in the Premier League as well, because as Paul said, he's done a brilliant job for Leverkusen over the years. But I just think with those big boys chasing his signature, I think he'll probably end up at one of those 3 rather than Newcastle.